This is interesting because, Scott, you know that they have the leverage, right? They're not. The union, they know there's an election in a month afterwards. The Biden administration says they're not going to jump in here. Joe Biden has called himself the most pro-union president of all time. Should he let them just walk and strike if all these ports are going to be shut down?
Well, I think that's the thing to watch, but let's be real clear, and I'll clarify what your guest just said. The administration has the power to order the workers back to work on the Taft-Hartley, right? If it comes to that. Their preference would be for them to work it out. They don't want to intervene, if you will. There will be lawsuit. They'll go to federal court. The unions or the other side will go to federal court. But Biden has the power to order them back to work. You cannot shut down the entire eastern seaboard and stop the movement of manufactured goods up and down the East Coast without an alternative plan, and there is no alternative plan. And so if they get close, great, but if they get close and they look like they're going to walk out, I think the Biden administration orders them back to work.
As a former chief of staff, what's going on at the White House now with this? Because you can't just have the East Coast shut down.
Yeah, this is a tough one. This
it's a national emergency.
This is one you got to stay. You got to try. You're saying your prayers tonight, hoping it gets worked out, because you really don't want to be close to this. It'd be easier for a Republican in the White House than it would be for a Democrat. Because if the Democrats,
what do you mean by that?
Because the Democrat, if Biden comes out and says you have to go back to work, he's going to upset the unions, and you can't do that as a Democrat candidate right before the election. At the same time, you can't sit back and do nothing, because then if it goes more than a week, as we've just heard, it could have major economic implications on the eve of an election. So there's a real fine sort of line for them to walk here, and I think there's got to be stuff going on behind the scenes so they can still have plausible deniability while they're trying to work out a deal to get this fixed.
Probably, but it's been done before. In 2002, George W. Bush, it was a similar situation on the West Coast, right? And he invoked the Taft-Hartley Act and ordered them back to work. And I think they resolved it shortly thereafter.
Easier for a Republican than a Democrat.
To his point.
Maybe, but the democracy is on the line. So there may be an exception here.
Yeah, but if he goes on the week before the election, says, I'm not going to let you strike, I'm going to invoke the rights under Taft-Hartley, doesn't that really upset the union voters when they go in to vote the next week?
Well, you got a pro-union president, and if he's pro-union and he wants them to get their wages up to $25, $30, $40 an hour, he may be able to segue into that and shoehorn being a good Democrat in, and the unions may not be upset with it.
Well, under Taft-Hartley, he can't set the prices. He can make
no.
work.
By the way,
he can force them to cut a deal, though, and he's going to be back in the union.